All-American half pound of 2 pure beef patties, lettuce, tomato.
Singles going. Steady.
Exercise number 13. Start standing with your feet apart, hands at the waist. Now, twist your body to the left side and bring your hands to the floor on the outside of the left foot.
This is Singles Going Steady, the podcast dedicated to exploring the great singles with a particular eye to the punk, new wave, and DIY eras of the last century. I'm Adrienne Meddock.
I'm Steve McGowan. We're in a band called The Beef People who released a single in 1986 on our own label, Zub Records. We are record collectors and passionate, especially about the expression of pop music perfection, that is the single recording. Exploring the mystery of what makes a great single is what propelled us to be in this podcast. And I'm a little put off by our new intro music there, the exercise tones of Debbie Drake.
Debbie Drake, teaching us how to keep our husband happy.
Yes, indeed. So that might be a clue to our show today, which is episode 049. And we're going to talk about a band from New York City via North Carolina called the Cosmopolitans.
The Cosmopolitans. The 1980 single is the one we'll be talking about today on Shake Records.
Called How to Keep Your Husband Happy. And we'll also talk about the B-side, Wild Moose Party.
There were actually 3 tracks on this single, but these two, they give us enough to appreciate that we'll keep it there.
Mm-hmm. So the conceit of the single is they got their hands on Debbie Drake's exercise record, How to Keep Your Husband Happy.
This is a 1950s era, post-war, sort of the beginning of the baby boom.
Right.
Right. So women were to stay at home with their husbands newly arrived back from the army.
Yes.
And to stay fit and attractive.
Trim and slim.
Trim and slim so they could birth them babies to repopulate the United States to fuel the military-industrial complex.
For the next war.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Not that I'm cynical.
No, me neither. Let's go ahead and play the first track on the Cosmopolitans record from 1980, Shake Records in New York City, How to Keep Your Husband Happy.
Husband happy. 1, firm and graceful body.
2, be at home when he arrives.
If you must work, try to arrange it so you're home first.
3, clothes sexy for your evenings at home.
4, be interested in him and the things he does.
Shake up, burn up, turn up with Debbie. Shake up, burn up, turn up with Debbie. How to keep your
conversationalist.
6, bright smile of a morning coffee.
This paints a good mental picture of you for the whole day.
7, nice voice.
Keep it soft and musical, also a pretty laugh.
8, excess fat.
Taboo.
Debbie says jump, Debbie says jump, Debbie says bend, Debbie says bend, Debbie says touch your toe, Debbie says touch your toe. Debbie says jump, Debbie says jump, Debbie says bend, Debbie says bend, Debbie says touch your toe, Debbie says touch your toe. Shake up, shake up, firm up, firm up, Debbie says touch your toes up with Debbie. Shake up, firm up, firm up, Debbie says touch your toes up with Debbie.
9, well set hair.
Brushed and clean.
10, mentally alert.
Try reading.
11, pin curls.
If they are a must, pin up after the lights are out and wear a bed cap.
12, a regular manicure.
13, a weekly pedicure.
Shake up, firm up, turn up with Debbie. Debbie says jump, Debbie says bend, Debbie says touch your toe.
Okay, I think we're going to start by talking about sort of the social context, the social historical context.
Really?
Because this was 1980, and commenting on the worldview of the 50s, which was very pre-second wave feminism, the atmosphere at that time. I mean, I was only partially kidding when I say, that things were geared towards encouraging women to remove themselves from the World War II era workforce, where women had proved themselves competent at all the jobs because the men were at war.
They were doing all the work.
And so, hey, maybe you should go home and have some babies. And, so there really became this obsession. I called it the husband-pleasing industrial complex, right? Where, it was very disabling for women to be other than auxiliary, right? To be an extension of the marital unit, to be there to serve the husband, to keep the husband happy.
But that being said, this song is a huge goof.
Oh, and so this song is a critique of that viewpoint, right? And so it's approximately 15 years on from those things really being foisted on us, and it's not that long, 17 years on from The Feminine Mystique, Betty Friedan, and A Bunny's Tale, which was Gloria Steinem's sort of expose of life as a Playboy bunny, and the sort of that culture, that exploitive culture of the Playboy Club. So I think this. Well, first of all, the single's great fun,
right?
But it's great social satire as well. And
it's kind of devastating social satire.
It is.
Yes.
And there's no greater way to prove the absurdity of a work than to quote it directly, right? So the lyrics come. The chant comes from that. That Debbie Drake record itself. So, devastating, I think, for sure. What other bits of social context did I want to be sure to drop? This notion that you have to be there to please your husband at any point.
At all times.
Because I was a kid in the 70s, and, I had friends whose mothers slept in makeup. Right? Slept in makeup. Why? Because the husband could not see them out of makeup. Can you imagine going to bed in full daytime husband-pleasing wife drag, which essentially is the way a lot of people live their lives. And, this notion of you have to keep fit and trim. And, as a last resort, you can try reading, right? So, maybe your thighs won't please, but perhaps maybe you can share an idea as a matter of last resort.
Well, I do leave my makeup on at night.
Right, that's true. Well,
that's a whole other story.
Sense. Yeah. I didn't say Debbie was wrong. But, the sort of being able to look back at the absurdity. And I think this owes some stuff to the success of the B-52s, right?
Very much so.
This idea that music can be fun, music can be satire, music can quote the past, send up the past, bring it into the present. And, it's an incredibly fun record.
It really is. The Cosmopolitans were actually formed in North Carolina by Jamie Sims. She had what she called the Cosmopolitan Dance Troupe, and she moved to New York City to pursue her dancing career. First night she was in New York City, she went to a party for the first Blondie record release. Met lots of people. Started up her troupe again, and they kind of did this go-go / pom-pom cheerleader dancing routine. They danced with when the DBs would play, and they danced with the Fleshtones and other bands. And they eventually started to write their own songs and perform with backing tracks. And this particular single was recorded back in North Carolina with our buddy, not our buddy, but someone we talked about many times, Mitch Easter.
A mythical buddy.
Yeah,
right?
We wish he was our buddy.
Our musical buddy.
Mitch recorded this, and he played the guitar on it.
And I think this might be the first time that we were we came across Mitch in the drive-in studio.
Yes.
Because I remember getting the single and sharing it with you and saying, you got to hear this. And look, it was recorded in Winston-Salem.
Yeah, and we were both freaking out just looking at the sleeve. Yeah.
I might have even purchased it in Winston-Salem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There was a great record store there. I spent the summer at the North Carolina School of the Arts in Winston-Salem. I think I may have told the story already about my my Peaches and Herb single that really was supposed to be the jam in the city.
Right.
But this was this was a different record store, so I actually got what I wanted.
The right record in the right sleeve.
Right, exactly.
So after they recorded this single, it was put out in New York City by Shake Records, which is owned by Alan Betrock. He was He was kind of the promoter for new music in New York.
The real hub.
He developed the connection with Albion Records for the DBs,
which is a London label,
right? And he worked with the DBs and Richard Hell and Marshall Crenshaw and pretty much all those cool New York
Ramones,
City
Blondie.
bands. Yeah, he was
as a producer and as a promoter.
Mm-hmm. And so the DBs, who we discussed many times already, we did a podcast about their Amplifier single. They used to rehearse in the New York Rocker offices, which was also Alan Betrock's magazine,
right,
that he put out. And I remember reading the New York Rocker, like when you could find a copy of it, it was like finding a gold bar.
Right. And of course, we'll play a little snippet here of a jingle, essentially.
Right.
The DBs recorded.
Right.
I read the New York Rocker.
So we're going to play that for you. It's a Peter Holsapple song, the DBs. You can find it on their compilation called Ride the Wild Tom Tom. I read the New York Rocker. Here they are.
And then we'll talk about.
That was the DBs, and I read the New York Rocker. Even when they're writing a jingle, they're fun. Those guys are crazy. So before we leave, how to keep your husband happy? Right.
I'm not done venting my spleen yet about sexism and the oppression of the male pleasing industrial complex. I wanted to, this whole time period, 1963, 1964, where, there were a lot of big changes happening. The Surgeon General's report came out in 1964.
It was a big deal.
Absolutely. And this sort of full court press about women's appearance really was a huge marketing ploy. And cigarettes were marketed at, you think about Virginia Slims.
Right.
I mean, it's in the name.
Yes, I know.
Right? That smoking was marketed as a way that women could remain fit, trim, and slim, right?
Yes.
If you smoke...
Keep your husband happy.
You got a cigarette in your mouth, you're not going to be putting a bonbon in there. Well, yeah, honey, was the notion. And my mother told the story that, I guess after the birth of me, that's often when, a few pounds start creeping on, and she was trying to figure out, maybe I should take this on. She'd go, all the ads say, and this was back when there were television ads for cigarettes. Cigarette advertising was everywhere. Mm-hmm. If you've watched Mad Men, you'll know how lucrative the cigarette accounts were.
Big time.
And she had just about made up her mind to start smoking. And the Surgeon General's report came out. The way she tells it is the same week, right?
Oh, wow.
Basically, she was in the car to go get a pack of cigs, and the report turns on the radio, right? If we made it a TV show, she'd turn on the radio, and there would be the report.
Oh, don't smoke. Oh, that's amazing. So we're going to go on to the second song on this single. A whole different sort of thing, but still just...
Except for the fun.
And maybe even more fun than the first.
Right.
So it's called Wild Moose Party, and it has a picture of a huge cat with with
And
moose antlers on it.
From the description in the song, I believe this to be Moose.
Yes, Moose is the name of the kitty.
He's fat and cute and soft and something else.
Yeah.
You'll have to hear the lyrics.
So this is the Cosmopolitans from 1980 on Shake Records. It's going to be a Wild Moose party.
We're going to a wild moose party. Love my kitty, he's black and mean. And cute and soft and fur and fat. My moose has a sister, it's baby wee. She's 4 years old, but she looks like 3. With a ma, 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 ma. Went to a party and there was a moose, Went to a party and there was a moose. He looked like a kitty, but he acted like a goose, We're going to a wild moose party. It was a ma, 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 Went to a party and there was a moose, Went to a party and there was a moose. He looked like a kitty, but he acted like a goose, We're going to a wild moose party. I love my kitty, he's black and mean. I love my kitty, he's black and mean. And cute and soft and furry and fat. And cute and soft and furry and fat. My moose has a sister, it's baby wee. My moose has a sister, it's baby wee. She's 4 years old, but she looks like 3. She's 4 years old, but she looks like 3. Ma, 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 ma,
Well, that's magnificent. I mean, what a great song that is.
Yes.
Endless fun.
I know. You just want to frug the whole time.
And I think later a Cosmopolitans EP was named Wild Moose Party.
Well, they actually
Or
put out a CD, yeah,
CD?
and I'm going to. That'll be probably my recommendation.
I am foreshadowing.
Yes, you jumped the gun there. The Cosmopolitans were a really fun band. Jamie Sims got the Epstein-Barr virus, and they had to stop. She was sick for a long time, and they just missed MTV. There's a video that we watched.
Yeah, they were on Uncle Floyd, right? Which was the tri-state area show that gave a lot of these, what we call today alternative artists,
right?
But, new wave, punk, post-punk groups got their break by appearing on Uncle Floyd.
And we'll link to that video. It's pretty crude, but it's funny. You can kind of get the idea of what they're doing, and.
Uncle Floyd was the Barney's Army of,
yes.
of the tri-state area.
Without the blob of a animated thing. Yes. Do you hear anybody covering this?
Maybe, because we do the live dead fictional imaginary.
Right.
Maybe the Little Women, right? Because we've got for How to Keep Your Husband Happy.
Yeah, they could all take a line.
Or maybe the Bennett sisters from Pride and Prejudice.
Okay.
But it's a real girl power thing.
All right.
But not the Spice Girls.
Right.
Well, maybe the Spice Girls.
Well, you never know. Yeah. Girl power.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear the White Stripes do it with with Meg singing.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it with Jack.
Yeah, either way, both of them.
Maybe Nirvana.
Yeah.
With or without Joan singing.
Exactly.
Current Nirvana.
So anyway, there's lots of good cover options there for this song. Do you have a recommendation for today?
My recommendation might be go back and look at some of that seminal work for second wave feminism, like Feminine Mystique, or if you want to be lazy, look on Netflix and see if like A Bunny's Tale, or any of those stories of fighting the fight in the '60s against sexism.
Yes, I think a lot of our listeners probably don't remember. I mean, even in the time we grew up, things were so much better. And just the generation before us was not good. It's still not ideal, but we're heading in the right direction at least. Of course, I'm going to recommend the Cosmopolitans. They have a CD that came out in 2006 with all these old songs on it. It's got 11 tunes on it, and also it has these 2 tunes. The other tune on the flip, Dancing Lesson. It's got a song called Chevy Baby, which is about trading your baby for a Chevrolet. It's got PH Factor on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and it's
the DBs.
Yes, So it's a little bit hard to find, but I believe it's in print. We'll see if we can get a
link for you.
And this has been Singles Going Steady 049, the Cosmopolitans, How to Keep Your Husband Happy, Excess Fat,
Try
Taboo.
reading.
Yeah.
Try reading.
We'll talk to you soon.
To learn more about the artists and recordings we just talked about, visit our website at zubrecords.com and click on the Singles Going Steady icon.
You'll also find links to the persons, places, and things we recommend, and much more.
You can find episodes of Singles Going Steady on our website or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Singles Going Steady is brought to you by the power and majesty of Zub Records.
Zub Records. Smart sounds for sharp people.
Today